This episode is brought to you by ABC Insurance and KiwiSaver. Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia. I'm an Auckland wedding photographer and your host. This week I'm joined by Charlotte and we're chatting all about her beautiful winter wedding in Queenstown. We chat about her meeting Jack online after he just made it back to New Zealand in time before the borders closed, their gorgeous proposal in France, and planning a Queenstown wedding that felt really special to them. Charlotte shares her biggest priorities for their day, what it was like planning as a people pleaser, and why they ultimately chose to get married in Queenstown with everybody flying in. Charlotte also shares the very stressful lead up to the wedding after they were in a car accident just before flying down, and how that completely changed her perspective going into the day. This was such a lovely conversation with lots in here around priorities, perspective, and making the day feel true to you. Enjoy episode 135 with Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Excited to chat all about your story and wedding.
For sure, exciting.
So to get started with, if you could just tell us a bit of the story of how you guys met and your life together.
So, good old Tinder. Jack and I met through Tinder. We've been together 6 years now. He was living in the UK. Obviously, I'm from the UK originally, but he was living over there. COVID happened. He got back on literally one of the last flights. I think it was like he got back around 11 o'clock and then the borders closed at midnight. But his family were all here, and they lived on a dairy farm. So he came back to help on the dairy farm throughout lockdown. So, actually really grateful that COVID happened because otherwise we might never have met. So yeah, my family moved over here nearly 14 years ago from near Manchester. So I've got my parents here and two of my brothers. I've still got another brother back in the UK. Yeah, Jack and I moved up to Auckland probably about 2 years ago now, which has just gone really fast. That was for work. Just before we moved up here, we went back to the UK to visit my family, and that's when we got engaged when we were back there, which was really lovely and really special. We were actually in Europe, in France, when he proposed. So we just had like a week. We went over there for 6 weeks, had a week of traveling, and then just spent time with family. So it was just really special to do that and then be able to go back and spend some time with family afterwards. And then we came back and we moved up here. So yeah.
Relate to Jack. I moved back from London actually in that kind of time period, March 2020 as well. So
oh my God, crazy time.
Yeah, but must have been the perfect timing for you guys being able to meet eventually. So I love that story.
I think like bittersweet for him. I think he probably still has it in him to move back. Like he looks back and he's like, I mean, he lived around London area, obviously like Manchester, London are quite different. And when we went back and visited my family, he was sort of like, oh, I think I could live in Manchester. The people are so different up north compared to down south. And I think he much preferred his experience of being back there with my family. And I suppose, I don't know, this is quite a divide. People from up north, we think we're like much friendlier, but I'm sure that people from down south don't necessarily think that. Just the rivalry. But yeah, I think he would probably move back. I don't know that I would. I'm pretty happy here. I think we've got a really nice life here,
Yeah, nice to go back and visit sometimes.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And you kind of touched on your proposal. Do you want to kind of go into the story of that a bit more?
Jack, as a person, is just very laid back. He has a fiery side at times, but for the most part, he's pretty laid back. So we had this trip planned, and I'm just like a really type A kind of person. So I organised it all. And he likes to wind me up by being like, oh, I found it so hard to organise. And I'm like, shut up, you didn't do anything. So we decided we'd do Amsterdam and Paris while we're back there. Because there's so many places in Europe and you go back and you just want to do everywhere, right? But we're like, no, we need to narrow it down. We're not going over there for the purpose of traveling. We're going over to see family and we're just going to add this on. So we did Amsterdam first, and then we did half the week there and then half the week in Paris. So we arrived in Paris and we'd kind of been mooching around, and it was I think it was a Saturday night. I'd booked for us to go to Crazy Horse, which was like a burlesque show kind of thing. It was really cool. And there was this restaurant that I'd seen on TikTok called Giraffe, and it was like really going off at the time. So I thought, oh, I'll try and get us a booking there. And it was like a running joke that everywhere that I booked in Europe had stairs and no lifts, which is really typical for Europe. And we arrived at our accommodation in Paris, and I didn't realize that they did actually have a lift, but we completely missed it. And we were up like 3 flights of stairs. And Jack was so sick of carrying bags upstairs. And then we get to the restaurant this Saturday night, and they're like, oh, so you're actually on the very top 10th floor. They had two sections of the restaurant. One was downstairs, one was upstairs. They were like, you're actually upstairs, and we're really sorry to tell you that our lift is broken. So you're going to have to walk up all of these stairs. So we walked up 10 flights, but it was so worth it for the view because it was beautiful. You went out onto the balcony and you could see obviously like the whole of Paris and the Eiffel Tower. And I always said to Jack, please, when we do get engaged, don't do it in front of loads of people. I just can't think of anything worse. So he waited until I think it was about 8 o'clock. So it was dark, and that was on the hour the Eiffel Tower sparkles. So we went outside, and like I say, he's so relaxed, and he was just kind of like, oh, we've been doing really well, haven't we? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And he's like, I guess you should have this then. And then he pulled out the ring. And I was really taken aback. And there was only a couple of other people on the balcony, which was fine. But yeah, so it was just such a him way to propose. And then we went to the show after, and we got like a bottle of champagne. So it was really fun. And it was nice to kind of just have that time, the two of us as well. And then, like I said, we then went back to my family, but it was nice to just be able to sort of take it in and just have our own time before we then went back to everyone else.
Such a nice story, and yeah, keeping it casual, like no big show in front of people. No, I love that. It's just like
Yeah.
you. So good.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. Had you been one of those girls that dreamed about your wedding? Did you kind of have a vision in mind for what you wanted? Where did you sort of start with that planning, deciding where, all of that?
As a whole, I hadn't been one of those people that was like, oh my God, dreaming about my wedding since I was little. But I think from Jack and I getting together, I'd kind of openly talked about, when we get married, all that sort of stuff. So I guess it had been on my mind, and I'd had quite a few friends that had gotten married in the years leading up to us getting engaged. I think because we got married in Queenstown, it was quite special. That was our first place that we'd ever been on holiday together. And I know when we went down there, there's a few places that we had, like places that we'd stayed at and looked around, and we'd said then, oh, how nice would it be to get married down here? But then when it actually came to looking, we were sort of a bit torn because we had a few family members make comments like, oh, why don't you just have it locally? And those feelings do kind of get in the way when it does come to wedding planning, because I don't know, I'm an eternal people pleaser as well. So when it was like my mum and Jack's nana and stuff, they'd kind of made a few comments, but then ultimately we kind of just decided, no, we do actually really love it down there, and we've viewed a few venues around here which were beautiful as well. But when we viewed our venue, we did it online, so we didn't actually see it until the day before the wedding, which was kind of crazy. But we chatted, and they did a video call with us and took us through it and everything. And when we saw it, we were like, no, that's it. We do want to get married there. And, it's really not that far. And if people, because I had family coming over from the UK, and we just sort of thought, if they're coming over, then what's another hour to fly down there? So yeah, we knew that was where we wanted to do it. And that's why it was just special to us, because we spent a few holidays down there and we just really love it.
Stunning. Yeah, such a beautiful spot. It's hard to beat that sort of scenery. We don't really have that in the North Island. So yeah, and I always feel like it's the best place, or there's lots down in the South Island, but to show off if you're having overseas guests, and yeah, just showing them New Zealand. So
Yeah, definitely.
so beautiful. You've mentioned a few things there, but what were kind of your top priorities, the most important elements for you in the day?
Because we had everyone coming down, we really wanted, like, food and drink was such a big thing. So we covered all the alcohol. We just put a full bar tab on. I was like, oh, I feel like we can't expect people to come down to the South Island, or, you know, come over to New Zealand, and then be like, oh, bring your own drinks, or oh, you have to pay. I don't know, I just felt guilty doing that. And food, yeah, we love food. I didn't want people to leave and be like, oh God, I'm still hungry, or oh, that wasn't particularly good. So that was definitely a really big one. And we just wanted everyone to really have fun. We wanted it to just be a big party, and for people to enjoy themselves. So like the entertainment was definitely a big factor. Yeah.
So good. Such important ones. I think, yeah, a lot of what guests remember from the day as well. I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, all I want is that people leave the wedding and they don't feel like they need to go through McDonald's drive-through on the way
Yes,
home. Yeah, just
exactly.
well fed, and yeah, so good. It's a good parameter. How did you go with your wedding outfits? Can you tell us a bit about those, your dress shopping, finding them? Yeah.
In the morning getting ready, I just wanted to be really comfortable. So I just got this beautiful cotton set from, I don't know how you say, Pyjama. They're an Australian brand, and they do quite sort of floaty, just, yeah, really breezy pajamas. And obviously it was the middle of winter in Queenstown. I sort of, as beautiful as these lacy, you know, camisole kind of things are, I thought, I don't want to freeze. I want to be comfortable. So it was still short sleeve, but long pants, and just really comfortable. My dress was from Natalie Rose Bridal. It was an Eva Lendel. I just love Nat. She's great. I'd followed her for such a long time. Like, I think from when she first opened, I'd been following her, and that was before Jack and I were even engaged. And I'd sort of talked to her quite a few times over Instagram and whatnot over the years. So I just knew. I went to a few different places. I went to Caricature as well, and they have beautiful dresses. And I also went to Saint Bridal, which under that Rue de Seine branch. I inquired with them, and they don't have anywhere that you can try on in New Zealand, despite being made here. And they sort of said to me, if you go to Australia, let us know. We have a stockist over there. And then literally a few weeks later, they got back to me and said, look, we're doing a one-off day of try-ons. You know, do you want to come to that? Do you want an appointment? So I went there, and that was really cool because they're quite out there, and I love fashion. And I had a couple there that I was really tossing up between. And then on that same day, I went to Nats, and I had a couple at Nats that I was really stuck. But and then it was a later date, I went to Hera, but I think by then I'd already made up my mind about the dress that I wanted with Nat, and it was just a no-brainer. We sort of changed a few things on the dress, which was really lovely. She's just so amenable. She can, you know, she's so open to doing anything, and just really bubbly and friendly. And I think that's what I loved about the experience there, is it's so one-on-one. You know, you go in, whether it's with her or with one of the girls that works with her. And then even when I went in for my adjustments, she had Sarah from Fritz and Sarah come, and she did them. And, you know, there was her, Sarah, and I can't remember the name of the other girl that works with Nat, but they were all just so nice and approachable. And it was just nice to be the only person in there, and it was very personalized. So yeah, I couldn't rate that higher. My shoes were actually Manolo Blahniks that I got from Designer Wardrobe, which was such a good find, because I tried them on in the UK and they were lovely. But I was like, oh God, it was the end of our trip. I thought, I can't spend this amount of money. And then I just happened to see them on Designer Wardrobe for such a fraction of the price. And I was like, perfect, they're my size. It was so good. And they just really, there's, you know, in some of the photos, you see this pop of blue, and they just look really cool against everything else. So it was such a find. I didn't have a second dress or anything, because at the time when I was buying my dress, I thought, you know, you're spending so much money on this one outfit, you want it to be special, you want to spend the time in it. But in hindsight, I maybe would have had another one that was just sort of due to like the comfort factor. It was quite a boned and, you know, corseted dress. And it was unfortunate in the week leading up to the wedding that we had a nasty car accident. And after that, because I had quite bad bruising, it was lucky that you couldn't see any of it actually when I had my dress on, but it was underneath the dress. So I kind of wished that I'd had something that I could have, you know, taken my dress off and just had something that was maybe more like a slip, or silky, more flowing, and wasn't so cinched in. Just hindsight, you know, who knows that that's going to happen.
Exactly.
It was a freak accident, but yeah, I mean, I loved my dress. It was amazing. Jack wore a kilt which looked really cool. He hired that just from a company in Auckland that does them. But him and the guys just looked really great in the kilts. So it was just a point of difference. I think being in Queenstown and it being snowy and all that sort of stuff, it really set the photos off. They looked so good.
Yeah, glad you had an amazing dress experience. We love Nat here on the podcast. We've had a few
She's
of
so
her
good.
brides on, but yeah, everyone raves about her. Obviously, just the best experience. And I think, yeah, so important because, yeah, there have been horror stories from other people's experiences, but she's really amazing, looks after you well, and Sarah and Fritz too. Did you guys have a bridal party? How did you go choosing them? Did you find that quite easy?
Yes, it was quite easy. It was challenging because 3 out of my 4 bridesmaids don't live in the country. So 2 of them are in the UK. One is my cousin, who that was absolute no-brainer. Her and I are so, so close. And then the other one was my sister-in-law as well. She was lovely. When Jack and I went back, we stayed with my brother and his partner. So it was just really special. She was there, obviously, when we got back after getting engaged. And yeah, so they were, all of them were no-brainers. And then the other two, sorry, my maid of honor is the only one that lives in New Zealand. She's been my best mate since I moved here like 14 years ago. And same with my other best mate. She lives in Australia now though. So they were all just, like I say, absolute no-brainers. I just knew they're all my people and it was really special. And then Jack, his best man was his uncle, which they are really, really close. He kind of thought about the other 3 guys like they were friends from all different walks of life. So like one of his friends from school, one of his friends from one of his sort of more recent jobs, and then one of his friends from an old job that he had. But they were just all really special friends. So we didn't even have to think twice, to be honest.
Oh, so good. And how about the guest list? Did you find that tricky to narrow down?
We didn't have a huge list. I think we had about 65 people, which was a nice number. I think you can get really carried away with just inviting left, right, and centre. And I mean, like in hindsight now, I potentially would have, even cut it down more. Not that there's anyone that we would have gotten rid of, from our invite list, but I think I'm amazed at these people that have weddings that are sort of like 150 plus because I'm probably like an ambivert, I'm sociable when I need to be, but then afterwards I just need to sit in silence. So, even with 65 people and they are your closest people, you do feel sort of pulled in all directions, carried away talking. And I think that you can get a bit carried away with that side of things on the day, and then you don't really enjoy yourself as much because you just feel like you have to get around everyone. So yeah, in that regard, I maybe would have cut down a bit more, but also there's no one that I would have gotten rid of from the list that we had. So yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, so tricky to find that sweet spot, but yeah, kind of a nice number rather than, yeah, getting to that 150 to 200. I feel like would just be so overwhelming. Yeah. Today's episode is sponsored by ABC Insurance and KiwiSaver. If you're in wedding planning mode, chances are you're also thinking about your future together. My friend Braden is a licensed financial advisor who wants to help get you ready for your forever. He helps people make smart decisions around KiwiSaver, life insurance, and health cover. His goal is to help couples make informed decisions as they plan for their happily forever after. Jump online to book a meeting with him for a no pressure, no cost chat, and make sure you say the Kiwi Wedding Podcast sent you. Check him out at ABC Insurance and KiwiSaver, linked in the show notes. Thank you so much to ABC Insurance and KiwiSaver for supporting this episode of the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. Can you, kind of go into the lead up to the day, what happened, and then, into the actual day and how it all went? Any highlights, favourite moments?
So we had my hens the weekend before, obviously, because I had family and friends coming over and stuff. So we did them quite close together, which was actually fine for us. We're not like a super crazy group. We went to the Mount and we just had a really nice weekend. We sort of went out for lunch and had nibbles and cake back at an apartment, and then we sort of went out for a few drinks and everything. So it wasn't, we didn't need to be worried about like the hangover-esque kind of thing. And then it was my best mate that lives in Australia. She had hired a car when she came over, so she'd had a few issues with it on the way to the hens. And you know, these new fancy cars, there's lights that flash up on the dash and you kind of can get a bit distracted by them. So she came and stayed with us. We were all heading down on the same flight on the Wednesday, quite early morning. So she stayed with us the night before, and then we packed the car up. And I mean, it was so jam-packed because Jack was taking the snowboards down and everything. So it was all the back seats down apart from the one which he was squished into. And there was one point when we were leaving our house, he was kind of like, oh, I need to put my seatbelt on, but I can't get to it. And we were just so lucky in that moment that he did actually manage to get everything out of the way, put his seatbelt on, because I live on the shore, so you know it's not too far of a drive to the airport. 6 o'clock in the morning, we were fine. We weren't going to encounter too much traffic, but he did, luckily. And yeah, we were driving down the motorway, and you know, in a really high spirits. And I FaceTimed my mum and my cousin back in Cambridge, and we're sort of like, oh, we're on the way to the airport. We're so excited to be going. 10 minutes later, I messaged my cousin and I was like, so we've just had a car accident. Like, we're all okay. The car's buggered, like it's a write-off. The airbags went off and everything. And it was just, yeah, freak accident. Someone just stopped on the motorway and caused a pile up, and there was like four of us. We were in the very back car, but we looked down for a split second at the dash, and obviously it was telling us it was the crash detection, but it was just that one light that sort of flicked and beeped, and we literally just went, what's that? Looked up, and we were just in the back of a car. So it was 100 to 0, quite literally. So we were all really shaken, really sore, really bruised. But we were lucky that we walked away from it pretty unscathed, and we still made our flight, which was just like the biggest concern. We were calling this taxi. We were like, we're on the side of the motorway. Can you come and find us? We need to get to the airport. So yeah, I think after that, it was kind of like nothing could faze us. I think a lot of people get really hung up on the weather and all these things that you can't control. So after that having happened, like it did end up raining on the day. It was cold. It was Queenstown in winter, to be fair. We knew what we were expecting. But I just texted Jack on the morning of when it was raining. I was like, look, you make the call. I don't care if it's inside or outside. Like we didn't pick the venue because we just loved the outside. We've got a beautiful fireplace inside. If we just have it in there, I'm not bothered. Like, nothing can faze me after that happened. Yeah, the morning of, we had a few really nice days beforehand in Queenstown, and my bridesmaid and I went and got a massage to sort of try and just bring ourselves down after that happened.
A bit of a state of shock for a day or two, I imagine. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, so it was just nice to kind of chill and have a few relaxing days where we weren't stressed and nothing could really faze us. And then the morning of, I ordered a few sort of months before, I organised with Ferg Baker to just have like some massive platters from them. So my friends went and picked that up and brought it around to the house, and we all got ready together, and it was just so chilled. I had Olivia Jenna as my makeup artist and Sarah Louise bridal hair, and they both work in sync with each other so well. And it was just such a relaxing morning. My sister-in-law that came over from the UK, her and my brother had a baby. It was about a year ago now. So he was like 6 months old-ish. So we had Bluey on in the background for him. So it was just very, very chilled vibes, which was, it was really lovely. We got to the venue, I think, at about 2:15, and the ceremony started at about past. I think the nerves didn't really hit until I was actually in the car on the way there. And even after the week that we'd had, I hadn't kind of like cried or processed anything. And my friends kept saying to me, I think you just need a really good cry, but it just wouldn't come. I think I was so focused on, wanting everything to go right. I did actually end up crying the day before when we were at the venue. I think it just overwhelmed me with emotion when we were actually having a look around and running through everything. Then I got quite stressed because we were sort of rehearsing outside and everyone was standing there shivering, and I was kind of like, do you just want to do it inside? Like, can someone just say to me that they're too cold and they would rather have it inside, because I would rather that decision be made now. And everyone kept being like, no, it's your day, you pick whatever's best for you. And I think that just really got to me. But aside from that, I think I'd been just stressed and in planning mode. And then we got to the venue and I was kind of standing there with my dad. All the rest of my family had gone through and sat down, And then the girls started filing out and the music started playing. And then I stepped out the door and then I started crying. And the tears just kept rolling. I was sort of trying to smile and I was like, just smiling and sniffing, trying to keep the tears back. But our celebrant, she was just great. She ran through everything and everything just went really smoothly. I couldn't have complained about how anything went. It was a really lovely day. Everyone was in really high spirits. I think once we had our first dance and got that out of the way later in the evening, then then we could kind of relax and just enjoy it. And I think because we were both really sore from the accident, we just wanted to get that out the way, and then we really enjoyed ourselves. And there's some amazing photos on the dance floor of, Jack dancing with guests and me dancing, and we've got pictures of my cousins, two boys, just having a great time. They were like 11 and 6, and they were just having such fun. So I think when everyone let their hair down in the evening, I think that was definitely a highlight. I would say that was our favourite part, yeah.
Oh, so good. Sounds like such an amazing day. Despite a bit of a stressful lead up on the way there, and yeah, being a bit sore, so lucky it was nothing worse, but it's kind of whiplash and injuries from the airbag, no broken ribs or anything. Yeah.
I mean, Jack speculates he thinks he did, but he never went to the doctors, which is really typical for him.
Or something. I don't think they can really do much about that, can they? Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, just quite bruised, but fine apart from that.
Yeah, definitely stressful to deal with that, and not be able to process it, and just on top of just planning a wedding, everything that brings. So yeah, glad that you had a beautiful day in the end. And did you end up doing the ceremony inside?
We did, yeah, but it was really lovely. And they had I think everyone was so worried about being cold, and even when we went the day before, we went in and it was really cold inside as well. And for a second, we were kind of like, oh God, like what have we done? But obviously, Winehouse, they just run such a smooth operation. So, obviously the day before, they wouldn't have had the heaters going and the fireplace running and everything because, why would they need them? But we got there on the day and it was so toasty warm inside. So we really had nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Oh, they're amazing. Yeah, such a special spot there. Yeah, obviously you had some hard things happen in the accident and everything, but yeah, what was sort of the hardest part of the whole wedding planning process? And yeah, do you look back on anything? Would you do anything differently, or any regrets?
I think this is so easy to say, but I would stress less and I would probably talk more about my stresses because I just internalized everything, and I didn't really talk to anyone about how I was feeling. I would have friends say to me, "Oh, are you excited?" And until probably 2 months beforehand, I would just be like, "Don't talk to me about it." And I kind of just pushed everyone away when when they did try to talk to me about it. And I think I would do that. I would not do that next time. I would do that differently. I would probably be more open about why, the things I was stressed about. So because it's obviously not good for your health to be that stressed. And I don't know why. I didn't want to burden anyone else. I was like, well, this is my decision to be this stressed. So but aside from that, I really don't think there's anything else that I would do differently. I mean, it would have been nice to have gotten down there beforehand, had a chance to actually look around at the venue before the day before, but it just happened. I mean, considering it's within New Zealand, it's not cheap to travel, around here. So it is what it is. And apart from that, there's nothing else I would have changed. I think everything was really great.
And you were already kind of away in a destination, so did you go on honeymoon straight away? Was that kind of extended down there, or what did that look like?
We had a few days down there, but we the night of and the night after we stayed at Kamana Lake House, which we loved. We've stayed there before. We knew that we wanted to go back there, but we didn't really spend much time at Kamana because the day after you've got to go and pick up all your stuff from the venue, and we were with family, so we just wanted to spend as much time with people as we could. So no, we didn't honeymoon, and we are hoping to sort of go away next year sometime and maybe do a bit of Europe in summer, as well as going and seeing family because you don't get to see them that often. It's just so far. We sort of figure you might as well tie them together in a trip. So no honeymoon yet, but it's pending.
Nice, something to look forward to. And then, yeah, it's good having a bit more time to save and do a longer stint, hopefully, as well. So, escape the Kiwi winter's always good too. Did you have any sort of helpful resources you used with wedding planning in terms of like finding vendors or inspiration, anything like that?
My God, my Instagram feed, even now, it's like it hasn't gotten the fact that I'm not getting married anymore. So I'm still inundated with wedding stuff. I a lot of my vendors I researched myself. I was on the New Zealand wedding Facebook group, which was really helpful. Lots of people post their experiences on there, and they'll post recommendations and talk about vendors and all that sort of stuff. Some of them I already knew beforehand. Like we had Ash Muir for our photographer, and I mean, like my family live in the Waikato, and I've known Ash for quite a few years now, just because I used to be self-employed as well. So there was a group of us girls in Hamilton that would, do Christmas lunches together and stuff like that. So we'd known each other for a few years prior anyway. So I already knew that I really wanted her. It was really lovely, and yeah, she's really good at what she does, and I knew we really loved her vibe, and she's just very relaxed, and I think it helps when you kind of know people. But yeah, aside from that, just Instagram was probably where I found a lot of vendors, just through searching, and obviously vendors all know each other so well, so they do recommend each other. So like I said before, the makeup artist and the hairstylist work really closely together quite a lot. Yeah, for tracking RSVPs, I use Zola, which I know a lot of people use Say I Do and all that sort of stuff. I'm a graphic designer, and I was just looking through all the different templates, and I think I just liked one of the templated websites on Zola more than Say I Do and all that sort of stuff. So that's the only reason that I went with that one. But I did find that having a website for tracking RSVPs was really, really helpful. I did all of my own stationery and that kind of stuff, and it was just, yeah, word of mouth for a lot of it.
Yeah, so good, so powerful. I've heard good things about that Zola as well, so that's a great
Yeah.
option too. You've given some amazing advice already. Is there anything else you would say to a couple planning their wedding at the moment?
Oh God, I mean, everyone says the same thing, right? Like, just enjoy the day and try and take it in, but you really don't appreciate how fast it goes until you're in the thick of it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it's 9 o'clock and we're all having fun together, but we've only got a couple of hours left. Yeah, I think especially the morning in particular goes so fast, and I think it's nice to just enjoy the time that you have with all of your people together, because how many other times in life are you going to have an event where you have everyone there, family, friends, and your own friends and family themselves. And I think for us, because we had friends that were coming from the UK and Australia and all that sort of stuff, and lots of people that did come down from the Waikato and Auckland and stuff, it's just so special to have everyone there. I would just say to enjoy it, and yeah, like I said before, just try not to stress, because everything on the day, there's some things that you can't change. And someone said this to me, and I'm sure that lots of people have said it already, that no one's going to notice if one little thing is out of place. You're the only person that's going to notice that, and you can't control what you can't control. So just try not to stress about it. Yeah.
Yeah, go with it. Yeah, such good advice. Love that. Realized I just skipped over the budget question, but yeah, did you guys have a wedding budget? If you're happy to talk about what that was, or how did you find that whole side of things?
I think you don't know how much things are going to cost until you're actually inquiring. And I think that, you know, I remember I listened to Gabby when Gabby was on the podcast, because I know Gabby as well when,
Yeah,
we were kind of in
the
that group.
Hamilton crew. Yeah,
Yeah. And she's amazing. Like, if I had
so
gotten
good.
married in Hamilton or even like up here, 100% I would have had Gabs. But there's so many makeup artists in Queenstown that I thought, they're all amazing. I'll go with one of them. So, but I remember her saying that a lot of these weddings that you see online, that they're amazing, beautiful, you don't realize how much they actually cost.
Hmm.
And like, some people are lucky that they might have a huge family input, or which I'm lucky. My family did input. So did, Jack's family. We're really grateful for that. But some people get gifted stuff as well, influencers, all that sort of stuff. Some of it might be for promotion, everything. But I think it's easy to get taken in by these phenomenal, beautiful weddings that you see on Instagram and everything, and, in magazines. And you want all of that, which is something I really struggled with because, there's so many things that I would have loved to do, but you do have to be realistic about your budget. And we didn't go in with a figure in mind. Once we locked in the venue and got a rough idea, we were kind of like, okay, this is roughly what number we're sort of looking at. And even before, like, we inquired with Mudbrick and they have a whole package, and that gave us a really good idea. And we were looking off peak season because we knew that we wanted a winter wedding, and that does bring the cost down a bit. But they're still not cheap as weddings go. And I've spoken to a few people that have asked me how much, and you tell them, it was around however much it was, and they're like, oh my god, but that's a house deposit. And I guess it just depends what you prioritize. You get some beautiful weddings that people do manage to do for under 15-20k. I think we were kind of somewhere between the 50 to 60, including everything.
Pretty normal. Yeah.
Exactly. I can't remember the exact number, and I think I would probably have a heart attack if I looked at it, so I try not to think about it.
No regrets.
No, exactly. And like, that's the thing, right? You hope that you only do it once, so you want to do it properly. And I didn't want to look back and regret anything. One thing that I do wished we had done was a cocktail bar, because I love cocktails, but between doing a full bar covered, and then having the setup for a cocktail bar and paying for that on top, we decided to just scratch that sort of, closer to when we revisited the budget, and we were sort of looking at things that we could take away, and we thought, look, we don't need that. So you do have to pull back on certain things, right? But I think it's important to prioritize the things that are most important to you. And like I said, food and drinks, we wanted everyone to have a really good time, and we didn't want people to go hungry, so that was such a big thing. Yeah, I'm grateful that everyone commented on how good the food was, and everyone had a really good night. And I think it was maybe in the last hour that we were getting to the end of the bar tab, at which point the girls came up to us and just sort of said, what do you want to do? Do you want to just like top it up a little bit, or do you want to just cut it and we can just do a cash bar? So I think we lasted pretty well on that bar tab throughout the whole day, which was good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So interesting for people to hear. And I think, yeah, that's so important what you said and what Gabby said as well. You see all this inspiration, and you see the weddings that are online and in Vogue and, yeah, in all the magazines, and a lot of them are multi-six-figure weddings. So it's just like not always realistic for your everyday person. And
No,
yeah,
not at all.
you can do a beautiful wedding on any budget as just your priorities and your guest list and all of that. So yeah, so
For
good.
sure.
But that's pretty normal figure, I would say, in New Zealand for that kind of wedding these days. What is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post-wedding blues afterwards?
I think definitely. I mean, it's really all encompassing. You are carried away for so long. And we probably had about 18 months in between getting engaged and getting married, and we started looking at planning fairly soon after coming back from the UK. So I think it's pretty normal, right? When you've had such a big portion of the past couple of years just really focused on this, to be on a come down after. And then with having people come over from the UK, that was such a high as well, being able to see everyone and celebrate with everyone. That when everyone left, I definitely did feel the post-wedding blues. And yeah, it was such a come down for, I think, probably a couple of months. But now we're just really trying to enjoy having a bit of expendable cash, and just being able to do things again, because you're saving so hard for so long, and you kind of put your social life on the back burner a bit. And friends might invite you to go to things, and you say, oh, we'd love to, but we're trying to save. Whereas we just went to a festival, a concert at the weekend, and we're going to another one at the end of this month. So it's just nice to be able to do those things together. We're just trying to enjoy lapping that up for a little while before we save for the honeymoon, which we'll probably start doing in the next few months, I would say. But I mean, like, apart from that, married life is no different. It really makes me laugh. Everyone asks you, but we were living together before anyway. We've been living together for such a long time, and in that regard, it's no different. I mean, I wouldn't be marrying Jack if I knew that didn't want to live with him, if I wasn't happy in my life with him. So yeah, we're just the same, but we've just got a nice ring on our fingers.
Yeah, so good. Love that. Definitely, yeah, a bit of freedom, not focusing all your time, energy, and money into the wedding for so long. So, yeah, that's fun to just do a few fun things with just you two for now as well. So good. It's been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there
Yes, you
anything
too.
we missed or you want to add as we wrap up?
No, I can't think of anything. I think you've covered everything really well.
Thanks so much for coming on.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.